new vibe of new energy, for example, that just allows everything to attract to them. Do you get what I mean? Whereas our generation, we need to work harder to seem, this information you need it, or to seem cool, or etc. So I just think we live in a generation now where it's not even down to me. Like, I don't ever want to go back to the music I was making before too tough, because obviously it was road stuff, innit? Yeah, because that's not my frequency or my energy, if that makes sense. But this new generation, so many of them are thing to it. For example, I'm sometimes thinking, maybe you can do 116, for example, that makes sense to that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes you can't go against your morals and principles and etc. as well. So it just depends. I always say it just depends on, it's like me, I'm Muslim, for example, but there's certain stuff that most of my family members, for example, that are overly following Islam, me and them see things completely different, because I think I'm the version that experience as opposed to reading. And then some people read to not have to experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's always two sides to it, innit? So I just think there's pros and cons to everything. There's pros and cons to her being her generation. Her generation is just where the energy's at. I've got this phrase that basically says, a kid's the person in the Ferrari, for example, that don't know where he's going. And then the older person's walking, but he knows where he's going. If you're smart, you put the two and two in the car, do you know what I mean? And it just speeds up the process.
Yeah.
That's very wise indeed.
Yeah, I wanna
They're not gonna come up with these analogies and.
No, they're not in a bad way. I had to experience life to even understand. I made that one up myself, but I had to go through life to experience that, to make sense of that. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I only know how to articulate myself now better than before.
because of the experience that you got.
Yeah.
For real, it does take like a lot of life experience to be like a bit wise.
100%.
I cannot imagine the journey that they're gonna have to take in order to bridge that gap. It's so big. Like some of the stuff she posts is so innate. Like it was of her planking, and then there was some really disorientating music going on in the background.
Yeah.
That got 7,000 views in like half an hour, and I was deeply embarrassed, but like because of how many views and likes she'd had.
Yeah.
But ultimately, and I put loads of thought into my content.
Funny,
You know,
let's be funny subtly.
That's why I caught time ago. Yeah.
so ultimately, I gotta do something to compete with my daughter. Really, this is what this is about.
Do you want me to give you a bit of advice?
Oh yeah, please do.
Just look for your market, man. Like, do you know, is one thing I say this day and age, because I think this day and age everyone's looking to go viral, let's say, yeah. But fam, we're not always gonna be the top 10 in the world, if that makes sense. So you might as well be the top, be in your, like I would say, build your community of things. Like even that's what I'm starting to understand, because ask him, he gets on me about dropping music all the time. But
yeah, that's so true. Like, so what is your, because that's really interesting. You're Muslim and you're practicing.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that with?
So let me be real. When I first started doing music, I wasn't practicing as much.
Yeah.
I think I've only started, ask them, like, which it's still sometimes 1 foot in, 1 foot out, only because I know the dunya is not Islam, if that makes sense. I've accepted you have to be outside to make things happen and etc. If I had it my way, I'd stay in my yard. The only way to actually follow Deen, for example, is just not to be around the stuff that's going to draw you out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, because I think the quicker you accept who you are, the easier Allah makes your scenario and situation, inshallah. So for me, it's this, like, okay, I know I do music. I don't have to interact in anything and everything. It's a job. Go to it, 9 to 5, for example, go home. Do you know what I mean? Whereas before, I'm staying around seeing if I can make sense of things and doing all of this, all of that, and that's where Shaitan comes to whisper. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so is it feeding into your music? Like, are you doing halal topics?
No.
Or do you still effing and blinding?
No, for me, when it comes down to, okay, so when I say following, I'm saying it in a sense of I'm aware and conscious about it. So I'm conscious about things, for example, so I won't make the same mistakes I used to make before. But my conversation in music, for example, because I realised this is not Deen that I'm talking about musically. I always talk about my environment. I come from Tottenham. You know what I mean? I was raised in Tottenham. So whether I like it or not, I can't lie that I was raised on the roads. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what I do is, when it comes down to the conversation about music, what people like me for, because I originally started in grime, yeah? I started in grime, let's say. So I already know grime is an energy where we talk about street stuff. I have to stick to the subject at hand. So I'm going to tell you, the woman on the road, for example, nearly got robbed, for example. That person passed away the other day. My brethren just went jail. My cousin just did 7 years in jail. Those are the conversations I'm having. It seems harsh, but I've even learned, even down to Dean, for example, there's some of my uncles, for example, that will tell you what you need to hear. They're not telling you what you want to hear. So sometimes what you need to hear might just sound harsh. So I realize sometimes, not in a bad way, but I sometimes just say it how it is.
Yeah.
And it works for some people and it doesn't work for some.
No, I think you're right. Like as I've learned, the only way to actually capture people's imagination
Yes.
is to be yourself. Like,
100%.
and that's really hard to find
100.
in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like who I am.
People are scared of being themselves.
Yeah, I think I have also shied away from being Bengali
Yeah.
and being like talking about like the actual nitty gritties of being Muslim.
Yeah.
You know, because there's like there's definitely a difference, a duplicity about me, because I wear one thing and then have to like change and become a different person.
Yeah.
You see, so to even cut you, yeah. You see what you said as well, yeah. In terms of like her building her own audience, you building your own audience and finding your own, obviously, you know, your own tribe. Yeah, I feel like maybe that's what's kind of missing in terms of you tapping in even more in terms of like being a Bengali Muslim woman and actually talking it, you know, bringing it even more into your comedy. Maybe that's how.
Yeah, no, I
certain
did
people are
that.
gonna
That's
grab it.
where it was. So last year I did a Bangladeshi comics, and it was like a really good show. It was like, and it's the kind of audience that I would be embarrassed of. No. I would run away from them because they'd be the ones telling my dad that I rolled up my skirt. So, but now, and also the aunties, you don't want to be anywhere near these aunties that just call you, like, they roast you as soon as they see you. But I was performing in front of these people and they were the most receptive audience.
See?
Yeah, and I was talking in a Muslim audience and I could bust out material that like you can't bring out in a white crowd. Like people want to talk about therapy, and I'm like, well, you know, I had an Islamic exorcism to deal with my BPD. So
she's different. It's like
trust me.
I like that.
She throw jabs when you're not expecting them, and before you know, you're like, where did that come from?
I like that.
I love it. But yeah, I feel like as time goes, like the more you know, especially in 2025 and moving forward a bit more, I feel like you should tap into it even a bit more, like, you know, like your culture, because I feel like a lot of people would relate in it. Maybe even got a lot of Bangladeshi like women or young girls who would wish to do what you're doing, but they don't have the courage, because like what I said earlier, stepping on stage and just trying to impress people, it's not very easy. So imagine you doing it, and it's like a lot of them from your community, they're waiting for someone like you to be inspired and to be like, okay, yeah, I can actually do it if you go to say. So I feel like you should.
Can I add to that as well?
Yeah.
Okay, do you know Damson Idris? The one that played Snowfall.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
So that's not his actual voice. Yeah, he's an English guy that sounds American. So he's playing a character. When he goes home, he's a different human being. So I've realized, for example, because this, let's say for example, music sometimes gets overwhelming and all these things because there's so much pressure and people telling you but that's not their world of things. So one thing I've realized is what makes us different, for example, is us doing the different stuff that we do. If that makes sense. And that's the actual thing that stands out. The problem in this day and age, everyone wants to be and sound the same. Or the world wants you to be and sound the same, and not in a bad way. To me, that just loses value, because if I can get it from them other 2-3 people, what do I need to come to you for? Whereas when you show me something completely different, for example, I might not understand it straight away, but over time, all right, that's different, you know, let me gravitate towards that. That's how it always goes. So even building your community, for example, or building your fan base, it's just going to take some time to get everyone on side, but eventually they have to give in.
Yeah, I think you're right. The thing is, like, at the beginning, you were always, when you talk about your outside, it's called outsider comedy, because anytime you get on stage, you have to explain why you're not white. Yeah. And
do you?
Do I? Sometimes I'm just like, I'll just leave you guessing. And I'm Mexican, Spanish, and then I'm so sometimes you do have to. Yesterday, I didn't address it at all. I just dropped in, you know. There was a ginger Muslim in the front row, so I had to address that situation. He was the only Muslim.
It stood out.
She had to give him bang quickly.
So he had to deal with that, but it's not always easy. I think I had to when I found doing topics about like praying namaz and not being namaz ready all the time with my attire. That's the type of stuff quite relatable, and you know people love that. But it sounds really odd in a white audience. Of course.
It's not their normal go-to.
Yeah, it's not normal go-to. And all my like ethnic jokes were kind of geared towards white people. There's always relating it back to what they know. Yeah, so that they were my reference point. So if I'm saying like I'm Bengali, I'm from a town called Saleha. Sylhet's a bit like Essex, so that's my reference point.
Yeah.
It's really wealthy with absolutely no
Yeah.
taste. So they'll tell you they own 7 houses, but they'll be wearing a T-shirt that says Dolce and Banana.
Let's spend it, innit? Keep the money in house.
Yeah, man. I want to also talk about Super Brown comedy. Did I get it right?
Yeah,
Super
that was-
Brown comedy, yeah?
Yeah, that was the first show I ever set up.
Yeah. Like, what, are you still doing that, or again?
No, I
you
shelved
don't-
that. I was doing it with a
Okay.
Bengali girl who's from India. And so, yeah, we set that up. That was not in a halal venue, but it was really popular. Loads of people wanted to be on that show.
Yeah.
Like, all the brown comics wanted to be on that show. We had, like, Shazia Mirza on that show, and people who are, like, breaking out now, Joshua Bethania. All these people came to do the show, and it was done in a pub in Whitechapel.
One of my favourite places, Whitechapel.
Yeah.
Good vibes.
It was a great venue, and you know, again, it was the marketing that killed me. You know, getting bums on seats is hard, because it's a licensed venue. So I was on Muslim Mamas. I thought that was my platform. You know, trying to enter the Muslim Mamas and capture that audience. They didn't want to come in. Like, I had a woman coming from, I had a woman. She'd just come from Umrah, and she came with her son, and I dropped the C-bomb. And he was in the front row, and it was just the worst kind of thing you could do to somebody. I think the woman wanted to wish the ground would open up and swallow her up.
Yeah.
And it was her that really gave me the idea of doing it in an unlicensed venue. But I'd want to reprise Super Brown comedy, because I still think you need that breeding ground for people to deliver jokes that are like brown, not about avocado and gapias. It's about like talking about it's about talking about your food, you know, your culture, your politics from back home, and the shit that you have to go to when you're straddling to like both worlds, and not have to like keep referencing it back to white people's experience. Like, sometimes you're just going to get the reference.
Yeah.
Like, if you hang around with brown people, you're going to know these references.
What to you, what makes a good comedian? What makes, not even a good comedian, what makes an accomplished comedian?
I think somebody who has an ease of manner. They might make you feel comfortable straight away. Oh no, there's so many different things that can make a good comic.
Okay, yeah.
Some people think that you can't be good looking and do comedy. You know what I mean?
Who the fuck said that?
Loads of people.
I joke around.
Yeah.
We bust jokes on, we're good looking, we bust jokes all the time. So
We're talking like, you know, if you're a good looking guy or a girl and you can't do comedy, but those people can still do comedy. So what is it that makes them? It's not, you don't have to look funny. It helps, but you don't have to just look funny. But you got to bring something unusual in your experience. It's got to be so unusual, but weirdly relatable.
you was the finalist, yeah, West End New Actor of the Year 2023. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Congratulations, by the way. What's that like? What is that, and like how was that like?
Okay, so this is a competition run by in London, and it was good because I don't like doing competitions. Like, I'm not, in fact, not a competitive person.
Yeah.
I don't think. And it means you have to go through several heats and get voted in by both the judge and the audience members have to vote who goes through on each of these heats. And yeah, I was supposed to go and perform in Edinburgh, but like, you know, sometimes life is full of drama, and on that occasion, the person that my ex was dating was also a comic.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And I was supposed to come up against her in the final.
Sounds spicy.
Yeah, I know. And I just, you know what? I got COVID. God dealt with it. God helped me deal with it.
Did you really, be honest, did you really get COVID, or you shit yourself?
No. Well, yeah, I was shitting myself too.
Yeah.
Because I had COVID.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that happened as well. The indignity.
Ah!
But I was content with just being the finalist.
Yeah.
Yeah. The girl who won is Shalaka Kurup. She's like like she just ripped it through the comedy circuit and all the competitions, and she's like emerging. Like she's a very good comic. She's not on TV yet in like on the big shows, but she won. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. So is it like a competition that they run every year?
Yeah, they do run it every year.
Okay.
So it's probably old news now because there's, you know, it's 2025, so I need to get with the program. But yeah, I think the way to get ahead is to do competitions. I'm not always like up for doing these competitions. Plus it requires a lot of organisation to like pay attention to which competitions are worth doing. But at the moment, I think I'm doing all right from recommendations and being asked to do performances, and I want to go on tour again with the Funny Muslim Ladies.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that sounds really good, man. I want to talk about marriage, you know, because one day I want to get married myself as well. And obviously you two in the room, my cousin is a married man as well. Like what? Obviously this is real life. Shit happens. What happened to your marriage? What happened?
Right. So what happened was that so I was married to a white person.
Okay, love is love.
Yeah, love is love.
It could be an alien. We don't give a fuck.
It works for some people. So he converted to Islam.
Oh, mashallah.
And I thought it was going to be amazing.
Yeah.
But his parents were actually not that accepting, and in the end, also I invited him into the religion, talking about like, you know, thinking that I was doing a good thing, like doing tabligh Jamaat and bringing him into the religion, but doing the missionary work.
Yeah.
But it was actually just like the missionary position that I was using to bring him into the religion, which is never good for a marriage.
Nah.
It's never a good foundation.
I've got this theory where it's like if you meet somebody and obviously they're in a different religion and obviously they love you and respect your religion as well, deep down, regardless of what their parents, other people might say, if they want to convert to join you in that religion, like what's the big deal? Obviously other people change for whatever reason, other people, they've got other motives and whatever. Like you said you converted him, so what happened? Like did you convert him before you got married, or that was after?
I think some sort of like spiritual battle ensued. Yeah, because like he was like, you're like, you know, curry is my staple diet, I'm eating with my hands, it made me wash my bum, you know. And
He made you wash your ass?
no, I meant he was that's what I made him do.
Yeah, was his ass dirty or he just...
Well, you know, they weren't doing his istinja. Whenever I see a white man, I just see somebody who I need to teach how to wipe his bum. That's potential.
I can't do this, man. I'm trying to be serious. But hey, the English one again, bear in mind. So yeah, so what continued happening? Did he like...
So in the end, I was just like, you know, I made him like clean his bum. He was eating with his hands, and he was just like, I think I got my own back. That was like reverse colonization.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I can't believe. 1 second.